So today, I have the pleasure of hosting my batchmate from MBA, Medha Dixit. So the reason why Medha is today on the show is that we want her to demonstrate a lot of information around social impact, which was a chosen field of endeavor before PGPX, the PGPX journey at IIM Ahmedabad, and then subsequently how she morphed into a branding role, a product role of sorts, and then now into digital marketing. So, welcome to the show, Medha. And I'm sure that the users are going to get a lot of insights from this conversation of ours.
Thank you so much for having me, Anurag.
Yeah. So, I'll just for starting to take us quickly through your formative years, which eventually led to an engineering stint at Pune.
Sure. So I come from an army background. My father, who's now retired, worked, served the Indian Army. He was an officer in the Indian Army. So growing up, we moved locations every 2 to 3 years. So as a result, I ended up studying in 7 different schools and had to make new friends from scratch every time we went to a new place. In terms of our family, we were a very middle class family with very middle class values, such as the importance of hard work, saving money, being disciplined, all of that. And I was a very enthusiastic student. So all through school, I was a very good student. I did well. This is not to brag. This is exactly how I was. But I was also a very introverted and a shy child. So given the choice, I would choose to read books versus chit chat or make friends. So that was really me. And I had an affinity for maths. I really liked the subject and I was good at it. And that was one of the reasons I chose to pursue engineering. And when the time was there to obviously apply to colleges, I had applied to the Army Institute of Technology and I was chosen. And Army Institute of Technology, for people who don't know about it, is a college which is based in Pune. It is affiliated to the University of Pune, and it is an exclusive college for the wards of Army personnel. But there is a national level exam to be selected. So you choose, you're being chosen from a pool of applicants who apply. So that was the AIT Engineering College. I did my bachelor's in computer science at AIT, and it was a fantastic 4 years of my life. Remember it with fond memories. Obviously, a lot of learnings, lots of friends. So that was really the journey from my formative years to engineering.
All right. So post engineering, you worked like a business analyst at ICICI Bank for a couple of years before you moved into social impact. So tell us more. I mean, one is the run of the mill business analyst post an engineering job, and then one is like leaving that kind of a stable job and getting into something like a social impact as an area. So tell us more about your decision.
Sure. So I started my career. I passed out in 2006, and as you mentioned, I started my career at ICICI. I was based out of their Mumbai headquarters at the Bandra Kurla complex, and I was a business analyst. So my team was responsible for working with their corporate banking projects, and we were really the liaison between the internal stakeholders for various verticals and the core development arm of ICICI, which was 3i Infotech at the time. So I worked there for about 2.5 years. I moved on from there into another SaaS role. SaaS stands for software as a service. So it was again an IT role. And this was a Pune based company. They were doing sales performance management, a subscription based model. From there, I moved into a startup. I was one of the founding team members for a marketing services startup, which was again serving the information technology space. And it was really at this startup that things started to change. So 1 year into my startup journey, I'd actually gone back home. I had to undergo a very minor surgery for tonsils, and I was recovering. I still remember that day very clearly. I was recovering at home, and suddenly on the television there was an ad for Teach for India. Now, I think these kinds of things are a little, they're fated, because you just can't explain any other way when these kinds of things like randomly happen. So I saw that ad, I'm just, resting nicely, but it stirred something inside me. And I was obsessed for the next 2 days. I went ahead and I found out everything that I could about Teach for India, about their vision, their mission, what they were about, the communities they were serving, the problem that they were trying to solve. And personally, I think, Anurag, I think education is one of the biggest and the most powerful enablers for society to bring about change in society and to bring about change in somebody's life. So after I read everything, I just knew that I had to do this. I knew that I had to apply for the fellowship program. And I also knew that I had to apply even, just right then, because if I didn't do it then, I probably would never do it. It's just one of those things that gets delayed. And as life goes on, other things take precedence. So, that is where the social impact and my foray into social impact and, education nonprofit started. I applied for the Teach for India Fellowship for the 2-year program, and I was selected for it. So I went back to Mumbai and I taught full time in a school in Dadar West for 2 years. And I was teaching primary kids. So it was a very challenging and gratifying experience. But this is how the whole social impact thing started.
And there's a lot of compromise on money, is it?
Yes, there is a compromise on money because the fellowship, at least at the time when I joined, this was 2011, 2011, 2013. I was a fellow from 2011 to 13. And the way Teach for India Fellowship works is you have a stipend, which at the time was, if I remember correctly, it was about 20,000 or even less, I think 15,000. So the stipend is based on the city that you're in, and Mumbai is the highest tier because it is the most expensive city. So there is a certain amount of money that is allocated towards your living or accommodation expenses, and then there is a certain living stipend that you receive. So the idea being, obviously, you're serving and working towards solving the problem of education inequity. So, you know, you just have to, you're working towards the greater good. So you take that cut back. And I think it also is about the fact that many people, especially in places like Mumbai, if you happen to be living with family, so, and especially for people who are very young, it's okay, just not making that much money. So you have to take a salary cut. I did take a salary cut. I actually was making more money at ICICI when I started than I was making at TFI 5 years into my professional career.
Fantastic. So that is something which is really good that you did. And then now that you are settled into Teach for India, how did this entire metamorphosis into an MBA student with the backpack landing up at IIM Ahmedabad in April 2014 come? And then what are your key takeaways from that 1 year at IIM Ahmedabad?
Right. So, you know, the Teach for India Fellowship, as I mentioned, it's a 2-year fellowship program. And towards the end of the 2 years, there is a career fair, and there's a lot that happens to help you transition into something else. And, up until then, I had already worked for about 7 years, including the fellowship. And so I had experienced different working environments, different industries actually, because I'd worked in banking, in a SaaS IT setup, at a marketing startup, now at an education nonprofit. So I'd gained a lot of different sorts of experience. And I think I realized that it was time for me to focus and to focus on something for the next 10 to 15 years, which would perhaps be my career. And that is when, I was thinking about what have I found most meaningful and what would I really like to do. And based on the grassroots level work that I'd done at Teach for India as a fellow, the idea of working in the social space really appealed to me. But I wanted to make a more macro level impact. And I was aware of roles such as, uh, a development advisory or social impact consulting, where you are actually able to create a much larger impact if you are advising governments and philanthropists and, those sorts of people. But I was also aware that to break into that space is going to be very challenging, unless you have exceptional higher level education, or you have very powerful contacts to back you, powerful connections to back you. It's really difficult to break into that space. So that is when I knew that I had to pursue some sort of higher education. And at the time, business school seemed like a very pragmatic decision. And so that was really, for I think it was a pragmatic decision in my mind for two reasons. First, I thought it would give me a very composite view of the kinds of business challenges any business faces, whether it is a for-profit or a non-for-profit or a social enterprise, all sorts of businesses. And the second, as I mentioned earlier, is the fact that, a business school or a higher education from a prestigious institute opens doors for you that would otherwise remain closed forever. So those were the primary motivators for me, Anurag. And I think PGPX, of course, we are batchmates. So it was, I think it was an incredible 1 year. It was an overwhelming 1 year. There was just so much that came, that comes at you. And I think in terms of my takeaways, I would say that I have three takeaways really. There's a lot more, but I would just, for the purpose of the interview, I would talk about three. The first was really the importance of teamwork. Going into IIM, I always thought that I did my best work alone. And I think to this day, I still believe I do some of my best work alone. But I think business school pushes you into working as part of a team, as part of a syndicate. And while it may seem very hard at the time, there's a lot of disagreements, there's friction, there's personality clashes, all kinds of challenges you face when you're working with a group of people. But at the same time, I think looking back, it is a very enriching experience, and you become better from it. And I'm actually very grateful to all of my syndicate mates for being my mates, for us working together. And I think it's also the fact that just teamwork is something that ties into the broader scheme of life, whether you're a family or a partnership or anything. You just have to work as a team. That's just the way things are. You can't operate alone. The second takeaway really is, I think, the intellectual curiosity that it sparked in me. Of course, we took away a lot of knowledge, a lot of theoretical knowledge. Lovely professors, absolutely fantastic classes, case studies, all kinds of things. There's just so much that I don't even remember now because it's been so long. But I think along the way, not just the core subjects, but also the electives that came along, and that helped me basically just keep the curiosity alive and just learn new things which I probably would have never thought I would learn going in. So I think those are the first two takeaways. And I think the third takeaway, or perhaps more of a lesson for your viewers also, is that I knew that business schools are very competitive environments. Going in, I was aware of it. And I think they can be, if I may say so, I think they're almost unnaturally competitive, because you have an amalgamation of, in our case it was 85, but these days it could be 110 or 600 in cases of places like ISB. And there are all these accomplished people coming together in one place and fighting it out, and not necessarily fighting it out, but you know what I mean. There can be, there's just so much going on that no matter how smart you may be, you feel like an imposter at times, and you feel you're not good enough, you feel insecure. But I think it's really important to remember that you have certain raw level of intelligence, and just work from there, because you've already proved yourself at different levels. You've gotten a score, you've cleared the interviews, you've sat through grilling rounds of interview and had an extempore and all of that. So I think it's important to just do the best that you can and not beat yourself up, and just follow that philosophy in general.
Absolutely. And I was also like, I was sitting next to the would-be gold medalist of the match. And initially, I was struggling into the whole curriculum. I mean, that person was on the top of things. And that's what IIM Ahmedabad is. You are all full of, your achievements till you land up there and realize that there is one
Exactly.
chap who remembers things up to 6-digit decimal places as well. So, yeah, of course, it's very humbling at times. And then you realize that this is your place under the sun. You realize your own comfort zone, and yeah, that's how it works. So then, post PGPX, Medha, you moved into brand management and market development for this company called Omni Active Health Technologies. Now, Omni actually now is more into the other virus name now. Once you, yeah.
True.
So
Not
now
the
it's
best name to
so how, tell us more about the nuances of this role, because a lot of people really want to get into things like brand management, market development, and you work both across India as well as UK. So what exactly was this role? What were you doing?
Right. So before I jump into the role itself, I'll tell you a little more about the company, and I actually want to talk a little bit also more about the fact that I had gone into MBA thinking I want to do a certain thing, but that didn't really happen. And as I mentioned to you earlier, that I wanted to get into social sector consulting, but I think the thing is, sometimes you don't choose things in life; they just get chosen for you. So that's the best way I can explain it. And I think going in, I had certain ideas, but that didn't necessarily happen because there weren't enough opportunities that came my way coming out of IIM Ahmedabad, even though I did make attempts at that. Now, coming to Omni Active Health Technologies, they are in the business to business space. They are a B2B company that offers science-backed, clinically researched natural ingredients that go into dietary supplementation. So that is what OmniActive is in one sentence. And they have headquarters in Mumbai, and they have offices in the US and presence in other countries, but that's more of a distribution. So I was recruited for their leadership program, and they had a leadership program very similar to a lot of different companies out there. And in their case, the idea was basically to recruit people from IIM and the different IIMs and create an entrepreneurial mindset within the company for their existing products or a chain of products that were currently at that time in research and development. And so they wanted to hire people who would work as these entrepreneurs, like I'm calling entrepreneur, but it's really intrapreneurial sort of initiative, because you are working within the confines of the company. And so the thing that I was doing, I was recruited as a BET or business entrepreneurial team, and I was assigned a product, one of their products. And the idea was really to work at a cross-functional way, work with all the different departments. So I worked with sales, marketing, the clinical science department, where that was responsible for any sorts of clinical trials, the patent team, the supply chain, the manufacturing. So it was a very interesting company because there was just so much that you could do. It wasn't the regular IT setup or what I had obviously seen before, or even education nonprofit. And the idea was to obviously there was P&L responsibility attached for the product. You're working with all these different departments, which are working in silos, as it happens in a lot of different companies. So making sure that the different departments are speaking to each other through you, and ensuring that any sorts of issues with the product are ironed out, and you're helping scale the revenue for the product in the target market, which in this case was predominantly United States. So I worked in the Mumbai office as well as in the US office during that time. And I was the brand manager for about 2 years and 6 months. So I was in that role. Now, the UK part, I'll speak about it in just a minute. So, this is basically the 2.5 years I was working across the US and the India office. In the US office, I was primarily working with the sales and marketing team and, working towards different initiatives. I think about 70% of the role was really working with sales and marketing. It was a very exciting, very interesting role, Anurag. To your question about how can people get such a role, I don't think I have a straight answer. I think it's really about being at the right place at the right time. An opportunity comes along and you apply for it, and you just get lucky. So I think I'm very grateful that this opportunity came my way, because it was exceptional. There was just so much of learning and growth in this role. And then in 2017, I moved to the UK. And I moved to the UK because there was a change in my personal circumstances, and the company, OmniActive, my employer, they were clearly impressed enough, and they were kind enough to uh, ask me to make a switch. And they said, well, you can't be the brand manager anymore, but we'd be happy to have you do business development for us. You can go into UK. It's an English speaking country, and just help us generate new business for the company. And so that was my role. So I once I arrived in the UK, I think when you are working in a new role in a new country, there's a lot going on. There was just a lot of stuff was going on, and it was difficult. So I think 6 to 8 months was really the learning curve for me to ramp up and become adjusted to my new role. And interestingly, during that time, the company itself was going through a state of flux. So OmniActive had a private equity investor who was looking to invest in them. There was Brexit going on. There was a lot of problems with the EU regulations, and the company was facing challenges in getting some of the ingredients to different countries such as Italy and Spain and other places. So there's all of this happening in background. I'm working here. And when the PE investor came in, they wanted to obviously remove inefficiencies in the company. They are making an investment. And I think that was the time where the higher management, this is around the 12-month mark when I'm already in the UK. And they decided to slash costs, and they wanted to look at, EU was the weakest link in everything. So that is when the EU branch was slashed. And that is when I was made redundant along, basically the Europe team was made redundant. So that was a big blow. It was a big blow at the time. But I think in hindsight, it was actually a blessing in disguise, because that is what opened the doors for me pursuing digital marketing. I sat down after this happened and, thought about, what do I want to really do? You have to keep doing it at different stages of your life. And I had enjoyed a lot at, the work that I'd spent, the work that I'd done with the marketing team in the US and also in India. And, I have always had an interest in marketing, and that is how I decided that digital marketing is the future. So I want to just get into it and, explore that as best as I can. And just perhaps, be in a situation where I control my fate and I control my future, and I'm not at the mercy of others. So that's how it happened.
So tell us more about Digital Chakra. How did your transition into digital marketing happening, which you've already covered, but in terms of this SEO, SMO, this is like a super hot field. So if you could quickly tell us, what has been your experience, how does one get the first clients, etc., in maybe a couple of minutes or so.
Sure. So I started Digital Chakra in last year. Basically, I started it in 2020 when the COVID pandemic started. Interestingly, it coincides with with an event which isn't well remembered or will be remembered well by people in general. So I'd worked at an agency in the UK for almost 2 years, and 2020, that's when we uh, the pandemic hit, and I'd already started thinking on the lines of starting on my own, because I had been working with different clients, UK based clients, and I had achieved some really good results, exceptional results for some of these clients. They're very happy with me, and that was a point I'd already started thinking. It was on my mind, even in 2018, when I made when this whole thing happened at OmniActive. I had made up my mind that at some point I want to start on my own, because I really want to be the master of my own fate. I've had enough of all this. And so um, I at in 2020, last year, was the point where I knew that I have enough experience, I have the maturity, and I know what I'm doing. So I want to just start on my own, take a shot at it. I want to become an entrepreneur, and that's when I started Digital Chakra. And I saw a lot of success with e-commerce in search engine optimization. So that is what I decided as my niche. So Digital Chakra is a UK based agency which is focused on helping ambitious small and mid-sized e-commerce companies really gain better visibility, search visibility in Google. And while learning about digital marketing, and digital marketing is a very, very wide field, Anurag, as you may perhaps may know. So there's just so much in it. I think it's good to understand the field in general, but it's very important to niche down, because that's where the money is. When you're able to service somebody, and when you're able to show results to a client, that's when you can. I think it's important to gain depth before you can gain breadth. So that's basically. I'm sorry, did I answer your question, or am I just
Yeah, yeah,
digressing?
this exactly. Yeah. So you kind of get your own niche here. So in your case, it was SEO for e-commerce companies. So this is a remunerative field, right? It's a good career
it,
choice.
it is a very good career choice, I think. And quite honestly, I think any choice is a very good career choice if you're committed, and if you spend the time, effort, and energy towards it. So I think digital marketing, the whole world has moved to digital, and especially during the pandemic, it's surprising how much more people have had to adopt digital because of the pandemic. So I'm not doing paid marketing, but I hear that people who get into paid marketing, the amount of growth, the amount of money that Google and Facebook have made is insane during this period, because everybody's jumped into paid marketing, pay-per-click marketing. But digital marketing as a field has absolutely skyrocketed. It's exponentially grown in the e-commerce sector more so. So it is an up and coming field. Search engine optimization is an area which is very important for your organic growth, because when it comes to a business, you can keep throwing money at paid search. There's no end to it, and Google will be happy to take your money. But if you're able to, rank organically for people searching for your brand, I think that there can be nothing better than that. And you just have to spend, you have to spend efforts. The issue is that with search engine optimization, there's some level of education that's required. And it's just one of those fields where a lot of snake oil salesmen, a lot of people will say certain things and promise or over promise and then not deliver. So it's just one of those fields, but it is an incredibly powerful field if you get it right.
Oh, fantastic. I think we can have a separate masterclass on digital marketing sometime. And
Sure,
yeah,
that
that will
would
be
be
very
nice.
interesting. Yeah. So final lines, a couple of lines that you would have for future MBA aspirants, career front, anything that you would like to say for the audience?
Sure. So I think I'll just speak about, in general, what I know. I will talk about digital marketing, and anybody who's looking to break into this field, who wants to get into this space, I would say that, if I mean, if you want to learn about digital marketing, I think the best way to learn is to do it incrementally. I really take inspiration from a Japanese concept, perhaps you've heard of it, called Kaizen. And it's about, spending 10 minutes, 15 minutes every day on learning something. Don't try to learn 10 different things at one time. Just focus on one thing. And, at the end of 30 days, you would have spent 15 times 30, that much of time on learning something and, getting better from it. So that really is. And I think if you have questions about it, just feel free to ping me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to take questions and, just
Oh,
help
thank
out
you so
anybody
much.
I can.
Thank you so much, Medha, for sparing time. And I'm sure users are going to connect with you on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And in fact, there are a lot of facets of your journey which even I was not aware of, even being your batchmate, which I got to know about through this interview. Thanks a lot for your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Bye.
Anurag. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.